$850,000 in assets.
And she lived in fear. 6 champion horses, 30 acres of land, and constant anxiety. Why did having everything not make her feel rich? What if you had assets worth over $1 million, but lived in fear of not having enough? If, in everyone's eyes, you were wealthy, landowner, purebred horses, enviable infrastructure, but inside, you always felt on the verge of financial collapse? And what if, despite having so much, you never allowed yourself to enjoy anything? She achieved what she once dreamed of: a horse ranch, champion horses, recognition. But even so, something inside her still feels missing. Missing what? She can't say. Maybe one more horse, maybe a bigger stable, maybe a bigger prize. Or maybe it's not about having more, but about never feeling that what you have is enough. Because the assets are there, the numbers on paper show high values. But the feeling is always the same. It's not safe. It's not enough. It could end at any moment. And while she lives in fear of losing, she forgets to live. Fernanda inherited the ranch at 29. Didn't expect it, wasn't prepared, wasn't even sure she wanted it. Her father had bred show-jumping horses for 30 years. It was his life's passion. He'd wake before sunrise to see the horses, spend hours in the arena, knew each animal by name, personality, quirks. Fernanda grew up on the ranch, learned to ride before learning to ride a bicycle, but never had the same passion as her father. For him, the horses were life. For her, they were part of childhood landscape. She had other plans, wanted to study architecture, wanted to live in the city, wanted to build her own life, different from that one. But then her father had a heart attack, sudden, fatal. And suddenly, at 29, Fernanda found herself owner of something she never asked for. The estate settlement was complex, lengthy, bureaucratic. When it finally finished, Fernanda was left with 30 acres of land, valued at $700,000, 18 horses, 6 of them competition champions, worth between $65,000 and $200,000 each. The other 12 were broodmares and colts in training, worth between $25,000 and $50,000 each. Complete infrastructure: 20 covered stalls, covered 130 by 200-foot arena, 1,900 square feet main house, caretaker's house, equipment barn, electric fencing, irrigation system. Equipment: adapted transport trailer, tractor, agricultural implements, saddles, jumping equipment. On paper, total assets were worth $1.9 million. Fernanda was rich. Everyone said so. The lawyer said it, the neighbors said it, the family said it. Wow, you got rich. How lucky. But Fernanda didn't feel rich. Not at all. Because maintaining a ranch is expensive. Very, very expensive. And nobody talks about that when they only see the beautiful horses, the medals on the wall, the photos on social media. High performance feed for 18 horses, $7,100 a month. And it couldn't be just any feed. Competition horses need specific, balanced, expensive nutrition. Veterinarian, $2,300 a month, between routine consultations, vaccines, deworming, supplements. And that's when there was no emergency. When there was, easily $6,500, $10,000 in a single intervention. Farrier work, $1,150 a month. Every competition horse needs special shoes, custom-made, changed every 45 days. That's 6 competing horses equals 6 specialized farrier visits. 2 full-time stable hands, $4,800 a month, salaries plus taxes. Because 18 horses don't take care of themselves, need feeding twice daily, stall cleaning, exercise, behavior observation, problem identification. Infrastructure maintenance, $2,600 a month. Fences that break, roofs that leak, water pumps that burn out, gates that need repair. A rural property always has something to fix. Transportation to competitions, $5,000 to $10,000 per event. Fuel, tolls, horse lodging in other cities, specialized driver. Entry fees, trainers, personal lodging, another $6,500 to $12,500 per competition. Each major competition was a significant investment. Electricity, irrigation, stable lighting, house, $1,000. Water, $320. Property taxes and fees, $520. Average monthly total, between $29,000 and $37,500, just to keep everything running. And in competition months, easily $50,000 to $58,000. And the revenue? Occasional sale of a colt, when she managed to sell $29,000 to $42,000. But these were sporadic sales, maybe 2 or 3 a year. Competition prizes, when she won, between $6,500 and $21,000. But she didn't always win, and even when she did, the cost of competing was often higher than the prize. Some riding lessons Fernanda started giving, $165 per lesson, about 15 lessons a month, equals $2,500. In good months, when she sold a colt and won some competition, income was $23,000 to $29,000. In bad months, most of them, income was between $10,000 and $15,000. Fernanda was in the red. Always, always in the red. She made up the difference with money her father had left in investments, a reserve of $150,000 that was melting fast. In 2 years, that reserve dropped to $54,000. In 3 years, it was at $10,000, and Fernanda panicked. But she couldn't sell. Couldn't because, how to explain? How to tell family she was selling her father's legacy? How to tell friends who followed the competition she was giving up? How to tell herself she couldn't maintain what her father built in 30 years? Selling was admitting defeat. It was betraying the legacy. It was disappointing her father's memory. It was acknowledging she wasn't strong enough, competent enough, dedicated enough. So she held on, cut personal expenses, stopped buying clothes, stopped going out to dinner, canceled the gym, cut everything not absolutely essential. Postponed her own dreams. That architecture course she still wanted to take? Impossible. $37,500 she didn't have. That trip she'd been planning for years? Forget it. She lived on the edge. Every month was juggling. Every month she asked herself, will it work? Will it close? She had $1.9 million in assets on paper, but couldn't travel, because how could she leave the ranch? And even if she could, didn't have money. Couldn't replace the car. 13 years old, engine noise, air conditioning broken for 2 years. But a new car, $66,500? Unthinkable. Couldn't do the house renovation needed for years. Ceiling leaks, old bathroom, cracked floor, budget $45,800? Forget it. Couldn't even buy a new couch. The living room one was sagging, spring showing. But a decent couch, $3,750? Can't spend that now. Because every dollar that came in went to the ranch. Always to the ranch. The horses ate premium feed. Fernanda ate pasta. The horses had specialized veterinarian. Fernanda postponed dentist appointments for 2 years because it's not urgent. The horses traveled to competitions. Fernanda hadn't left the county in 3 years. Fernanda looked at the horses and felt pride. They were beautiful, well cared for, champions, exceptional genetics, fruit of decades of her father's careful selection. When she saw one winning a competition, jumping perfectly, receiving the medal, she felt a pang of joy. Dad, look, I managed to maintain it. But right after came the weight. Weight of maintaining, weight of continuing, weight of never being able to stop. Weight of carrying alone a dream that was her father's, not hers. Because the truth Fernanda couldn't admit, even to herself, was she didn't love it like her father loved it. She liked the horses, respected the work, understood the value. But it wasn't her life's passion. It was her father's life passion. And she was sacrificing herself, emptying herself, erasing herself, for a dream that was never hers. She had 6 champion horses. When someone, a buyer, another breeder, suggested buying one, Fernanda automatically refused. Can't sell, they're champions. They're worth a lot.
they're the heart of the ranch. And it was true. They were worth a lot, between $65,000 and $200,000 each. But being worth a lot on paper doesn't pay bills. And Fernanda knew this, knew it rationally, but emotionally couldn't let go. Because those horses weren't just animals, they were symbols. Symbol that she was succeeding. Symbol that she hadn't given up. Symbol that her father's legacy was alive. And selling a horse was admitting the symbol was cracking. So she held on and suffocated.
One day, her best friend, who'd known Fernanda since childhood, who saw what was happening, came to visit. They sat on the main house porch, drinking coffee, watching the horses in the pasture. And the friend asked, carefully, lovingly, "Fernanda, you have all this, land, horses, infrastructure. You're rich. Why do you never seem calm?" Fernanda was silent, stirred her coffee cup, looked at the horizon, and didn't know how to answer, because she really didn't know. Only knew that no matter how much she had, it was never enough, never felt secure, never felt calm, never felt rich, felt fragile, vulnerable, one step from collapse.
What if a horse gets sick and needs $33,000 surgery? What if there's a drought and I need to buy hay from outside? What if I don't sell any colts this year? What if? The assets that should bring security brought anxiety. Constant, corrosive anxiety that wouldn't let her sleep. Anxiety of losing, of not being able to maintain, of one day waking up and discovering she'd lost everything. So she lived in survival mode, always cutting costs, always worrying, always calculating, recalculating, trying to make the numbers work, always with fear. Fear of failing, fear of disappointing, fear of losing what her father built. And even with $1.9 million in assets, she felt poor, poorer than when she had just a modest salary but no responsibility. Because assets without peace aren't wealth, they're prison.
Why does she never feel rich, even having everything? This is the question that haunts not just Fernanda, but thousands of people. People who, on paper, have significant assets, who, in others' eyes, won at life, but who inside feel emptiness, insecurity, constant fear. Why? Because wealth isn't a number. Wealth is a feeling. And that feeling rarely comes from what you have. It comes from what you feel about what you have.
Let's look at Fernanda's numbers clearly. Total assets, $1.9 million. Monthly maintenance cost, $37,500 average. Monthly revenue, $10,000 to $23,000, irregular. Average monthly deficit, $14,500 to $27,500. In other words, every month, Fernanda had to pull between $14,500 and $27,500 from somewhere to cover the gap. At first, it came from the reserve her father left. When the reserve ran out, she started selling some less valuable horses, young colts, older mares. Then started delaying payments, suppliers, veterinarian. Then started using personal credit card. In 5 years managing the ranch, Fernanda accumulated $56,500 in credit card and overdraft debt. $56,500 in debt, while having $1,900,000 in assets. How is this possible?
Because illiquid assets don't pay current bills. Those 30 acres were worth $700,000, but she couldn't sell a piece. It was contiguous area, necessary for pastures. Those 6 champion horses were worth between $65,000 and $200,000 each, but she couldn't sell because they were the heart of the ranch. That infrastructure was worth hundreds of thousands, but didn't generate revenue by itself, only maintenance costs. So Fernanda was in a paradoxical situation, rich on paper, broke in practice, and worse, trapped. Trapped because she couldn't sell, emotionally, psychologically, couldn't. Selling was admitting she couldn't maintain it, that she had failed.
that her father's legacy was dying in her hands, and that idea was unbearable. So she held on, even bleeding financially, even living on the edge, even sacrificing her own life, her own mental health, her own future. Because assets, for Fernanda, weren't about quality of life. They were about status, about identity, about proving to herself and others that she was capable. They were about not disappointing her father's memory. They were about keeping alive the story he built over 30 years. And there was something more, something Fernanda barely admitted to herself. It was about fear. Fear that if she sold, if she downsized, if she simplified, people would discover she wasn't as successful as she appeared, that she was struggling, that she was losing, that she wasn't the rich heiress everyone thought she was. So she maintained the facade and died inside.
But assets that don't give you peace aren't wealth. They're prison. You have, but can't enjoy. You own, but can't use. You're the owner, but feel like hostage. Because selling seems like losing, reducing seems like failing, simplifying seems like giving up. So you hold on and suffocate. Fernanda had 6 champion horses, each worth between $65,000 and $200,000. If she sold just 2, the 2 lowest value, say $65,000 each, she'd have $130,000 cash immediately. With $130,000, she could pay off all the $56,500 debt, have $73,500 left to invest in fixed income, generating about $735 a month passive income, or create a real emergency reserve for the ranch, or finally do that urgent house renovation, or finally replace the car. She could breathe, could have security, could live without constant pressure, and would still have 4 champion horses, 12 other horses, all infrastructure, all land. Would still be, in anyone's eyes, extremely successful. But she didn't sell, because selling in her mind was losing, and losing was unacceptable. So she continued, rich on paper, $1.9 million in assets, poor in practice, in debt, unable to pay monthly bills, anxious in soul, waking at dawn, doing math, panicking. And the cycle perpetuated. The more time passed, the harder it became to sell, because then she'd be admitting she took too long to make the right decision. The more she went into debt, the more trapped she felt, because now she needed the assets as collateral, as last barrier between her and total collapse. The more anxious she became, the less she could think clearly, all decisions made in panic mode, in desperation, never strategically. And here's the cruel truth nobody wants to admit. Having much can be worse than having little, when the much imprisons you, when the much charges an emotional, psychological, financial price you can't pay, when the much prevents you from living because you're too busy protecting, maintaining, sustaining. Fernanda looked at those 18 horses and saw responsibility, looked at those 30 acres and saw burden, looked at that infrastructure and saw future debt, because everything breaks, everything needs maintenance, everything has cost, and never allowed herself to look and simply see beauty, see achievement, see what was good, because she was too busy being afraid of losing. In the end, it's not the assets that are missing. It's not more land, more horses, more infrastructure that will make Fernanda feel secure, because security doesn't come from outside, it comes from inside. What's missing is permission to let go, permission to understand that wealth isn't about how much you have, but about how much you can enjoy without fear. Permission to recognize that less can be more, when that less gives you peace. And as long as you live in fear of losing, you'll never live. You'll just guard, protect, hold with both hands while life passes around you. And one day, you'll look back and realize you had everything, but enjoyed nothing, because you were too busy being afraid.
Fernanda took time, a long time. 5 years fighting, 5 years bleeding, 5 years sacrificing. Until one Sunday afternoon, she was alone at the ranch, The stable hands had the day off. Nobody else was there. She sat on a wooden bench near the stables, watching horses grazing in the afternoon sun, and had a revelation. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a celestial epiphany. It was simply deep exhaustion and an honest question. Why am I doing this? And for the first time, she answered with brutal honesty. Because I'm afraid. Afraid that if I sell, everyone will see I failed. Afraid of disappointing my father, even though he's not here anymore. Afraid of being just ordinary. And in that moment of painful clarity, Fernanda understood something fundamental. She wasn't trapped in the ranch. She was trapped in the identity she'd built around the ranch. Fernanda, the ranch heiress. Fernanda, the breeder of champions. Fernanda, the daughter who maintained the legacy. And who would she be without that? The answer scared and freed her at the same time. She would be herself. Just Fernanda. No titles, no legacies, no assets defining her worth. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. So she did something she never imagined doing. She sold. Didn't sell everything, didn't give up completely, but sold 2 of the 6 champion horses. The 2 mid-value ones, $154,000 and $196,000. Total, $350,000. And when the money hit the account, when those zeros appeared on the bank screen, Fernanda felt relief. Pure, deep, liberating relief. Not regret, not guilt, not the shame she expected to feel. Just relief.
And you know what happened? The ranch didn't collapse. The other 4 champion horses kept competing, kept winning, kept bringing medals and recognition. The people she thought would judge her barely noticed, or noticed and didn't care. Her father's legacy didn't die. It just became more sustainable. And her? She finally breathed. She took that $350,000 and used it strategically for the first time, paid all accumulated debts, $56,500 in credit card and overdraft, cleared everything, 0 debt for the first time in 3 years, invested $112,500 in conservative fixed income, CDs, treasury bonds, monthly yield approximately $1,125. Not much, but passive income that would come in independent of Senate or winning competitions. Created a real emergency reserve for the ranch, $75,000 saved, untouchable for emergencies only. 6 months of operating costs covered, the security she'd never had. Renovated the house, $37,500 that made brutal difference in quality of life. Fixed the leaking roof, redid the bathroom, replaced cracked floor. The house finally became a comfortable home, not just a place where she slept exhausted. Replaced the car, $29,000 down payment on reliable used car. For the first time in 13 years, had a vehicle that didn't make strange noises, that had working air conditioning. And saved $39,500 for her dreams, for that course she still wanted to take, to live a little. And for the first time in 5 years, for the first time since inheriting the ranch, Fernanda slept peacefully, slept through the night, without waking at 3 a.m. doing math, without panic in her chest, without that feeling of imminent drowning. Slept knowing she had reserve, had strategy, had choice. Because now, if something went wrong, she had ways to deal with it. Wasn't on the edge anymore. Wasn't one problem away from collapse. Fernanda discovered something that should be obvious, but for many isn't. Wealth isn't about how much you have. It's about how much you enjoy without fear. She had been richer when she had $1.9 million and 6 champion horses, but was happier, more secure, more at peace with $1.7 million and 4 champion horses, because that $200,000 less in assets transformed into something that dormant money can't provide. Freedom. Freedom to sleep peacefully. Freedom to make plans without panic. Freedom to enjoy what she had without constantly being afraid of losing it. And she learned that assets that don't give you peace aren't worth keeping. That letting go isn't losing. It's choosing quality of life. It's choosing mental sanity. It's choosing to live, not just survive. That being rich isn't having 6 champion horses that keep you awake at night worried. It's having 4 champion horses and peace to appreciate them. It's having fewer things, but more life. It's having assets that serve you, not that enslave you. 6 months after the sales, Fernanda was on the porch again with the same friend who'd asked that question. And the friend, looking at her, said, "You're different, lighter." Fernanda smiled, a genuine smile, not that tense smile she used before. "I am, because I finally understood I don't need to prove anything to anyone, not to my father, not to people, not even to myself. And what do you need? I need to be well. I need to have peace. I need to live, not just protect assets." If this story touched you, leave your like. And if you want more reflections like this, subscribe to the channel. Sometimes what we most need to hear is, you don't need to have everything. You need to have enough and peace to enjoy it. Wealth isn't accumulating. It's living without fear. It's not about how many zeros are in your account or how many assets you own. It's about waking up in the morning without that tightness in your chest. It's about looking at what you have and feeling gratitude, not anxiety. It's about building a life you want to live, not a life you feel obligated to maintain. Share with another person who also has much, but never feels rich. With that friend who inherited something and is drowning trying to maintain it. With that acquaintance who seems to have everything, but never seems happy. With that woman trapped by her own assets like Fernanda was. Maybe what you heard here today is the permission she needs to finally let go, to understand that less can be more, that simplifying isn't failing, that choosing peace over status isn't giving up. It's finally beginning to live.